Hello, this is Lady Boule, and thank you for clicking on the video. I just came back to give you the link to my new channel, Black American Lineage, and to let you know that some of you have already found it, and I think I have 10 subscribers. When I started with this channel, I had 3. So I'm doing much better now with my new channel already. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. We are commanded to love one another. So this is the link to my new channel, and I will put it in the description box at the end of this video. And I do want to speak again about my last video where I said that everybody is responsible for their own life. Some people seem to have taken issue with it. Somebody came back and said, well, it looks like you're saying that everybody should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, in the 1960s, Dr. King referenced pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And he said you couldn't pull yourself up by your bootstraps if you didn't have any boots. Now, that was true for the 1960s because the American society was shut down as far as Black Americans were concerned. We had almost no rights to do anything. It was truly a white supremacist country. But the civil rights movement turned this country upside down so that now we are able to access institutions and programs that we were never able to access before. But it's only if you want to do it. Nobody is forcing anybody to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. My point is, I'm not going to go through life mad at everybody because nobody will do anything to help me. Because in the world that I live in, there's always somebody that will help you, and there are always resources. Now, there's one thing that I strongly believe that Black Americans don't like, and that is advice. Most of the Black Americans that I know, even people who might benefit from some strong advice, do not want it. They say, I'll take the money, but you can keep the advice. Now, that's what I've heard people say. And the YouTube audience might be different. But I don't believe that Black Americans like advice. So if somebody would tell you, well, if you would do this or if you would try that, it might work. They don't want that. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what I've seen. So I don't really consider myself giving advice. I will share my experiences and things that I know. And we do live in a society where there are safety nets for people. If you are a child, if you are a mother with children and don't have a job or a spouse, there are resources that you can access. If you have a physical or a mental challenge or a handicap, there are resources available to you. If you are old and incapacitated, there are resources available to you. Now, if you live in a place where people are so racist that you can't access any kind of service or benefits, then in the same way you got to that place, you probably need to move. Everybody tries to use the South as the worst place in the world to live. Now, it might be for some people, but for many of us, it is not. Appalachia, which is considered the poorest part of white America, begins in Alabama. And there are places that you can go in Alabama and see some of the poorest white people that will make you feel sympathy for them. And this is not an exaggeration. So poverty is everywhere. And if you look at the pyramid of civilization, at the very bottom of that pyramid is the poor people. It's the largest part of the pyramid. So in the scripture, Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. Well, that means the poor in spirit, the poor in heart, the depressed, the lazy, and the people who just never get it together. And it also goes for people who are selfish. I think that's a part of the poor people. But I am in no way saying that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps or you have to come out of the situation that you're in. That's a choice that you can make. But I absolutely and truly believe that it is unfair to blame other people for your failure. Now, I believe that. I'm not an elitist. I belong to organizations because I feel I can do something to help. I have a social conscience. But in no way do I think anybody ought to try to force somebody to improve their lives if they don't want to do it. But I still don't believe that it is another person's job to make you improve your life or even to advise you to improve your life. But it's unfair to you if you are a healthy and able-bodied person that you don't want to improve your life and then you want to blame it on other people if your life is not what you want it to be. Now, I honestly think that's unfair. And that's what I picked up on some of the comments in my last video. That many of you, most of you agree with me, like your life is your responsibility. But I do not believe that the Boule or any organization is responsible for making you a success. That is strictly up to you. Now, my goal is not to offend. I operate in love, but I am straightforward in what I think. And I am a politically astute person. I don't say that I know all about the political in-workings and out-workings in America, but I know some things, and I keep hearing black people talking about the agenda, the agenda. I don't know what the agenda is. They first say it's about everybody being LGBTQ. Well, that's still a personal choice. Just because one man decides to put on a dress doesn't mean every man has to decide to put on a dress. And if you do, you're doing that because you want to. The real agenda, as I see it, is the school to prison pipeline. And that is strictly based on how children perform in school. And black people are the hardest people in the school system, as far as I know, to get themselves involved full scale in their children's education. So the school to prison pipeline is what's being utilized against young black men. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that parents have not taken charge of their children's education. But that's the agenda, because that agenda fulfills the idea of the bottom caste in America. Black Americans have always been the bottom caste. And you do that now by putting as many black people in prison as you can. I don't even know if that's an agenda. That's just a reality. And all of these illegals that are coming in here now, they are prepping them to be the new bottom caste. I don't care what y'all say. Those people are not going to become citizens. And as time goes by, they're going to strip away what little rights they have. My husband worked for the Department of Labor for a number of years. And in the 1990s, they started telling them they had to put programs in place for the people who were already receiving services. And that was black people. They said, and this is the government saying, because they're going to bring in a whole new group of people and they're going to need those services. And those people were going to fulfill the bottom caste that America depends on. Now, black people have all kinds of scenarios about stuff like that. But the basic thing about trying to get your children disciplined and educated so they cannot be just like these white people that's living in Appalachia somewhere in a raggedy trailer. They may not be putting them in jail, but they're not going to be pouring resources into the black community. Now, that's how I see it based on the people who have worked in these governmental agencies. So for all this social media babble that we hear about the agenda. The only agenda that's going to be perpetrated against black people is the agenda of black people not accepting the realities of how this country works. Everybody's not going to be rich. Everybody's not going to be at the top. Somebody's going to be at the bottom, and you have to prepare not to be at the bottom. But I just know how this system works, and I don't want to get caught up in it any more than I am already. Okay, y'all? Let me know what you think about the video. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Share the video. And as always, have a great day. And I will leave the link to my new channel in the description box.